Hey guys, and welcome to another Walk-In Wednesday. I have a new gun to show you today that just walked in. I think it's pretty cool and I wanted to share it with you. This is a Mauser HSC. It's a vet bringback. And I have the paperwork and actually a photo album to share with you from Harold Yeager. From what I can tell, Harold was from the great state of Texas, and I'm going to see if you guys can help me track down his family. But he brought back this Mauser HSC. You can see the gun. Some of you might be familiar with the Mauser HSC. It is police proofed. It's Eagle L police proof. It has a high polish finish. You can see the proof marks on the slide and the frame. That's an Eagle N, which means it was made after, it was made either 1940 or after. I would say this gun is probably 1941. Serial number is in the 700,000 range. So let me tell you a little bit about Harold and him bringing this back from the war, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Mauser HSC. Oh, by the way, before I move on, it comes as a rig, meaning a spare magazine in the pouch, but also dated 1942 with, that is a police Eagle proof mark. It's Eagle, I think they call it an Eagle B because underneath the Eagle there's a B. Again, it's just an inspector proof. Just like the Eagle L is an inspector proof. Let's take a look at Harold's life in the military. So this is these are the bring home papers. Other than the gun, the first thing that I'd like to take a look at is the capture papers. These are the capture papers from October of 1945. So the war was already over in May. And so he was there actually right at the end of the war. And we know from this photo album that he served in France. He was in the Air Corps. That's on the capture paper. We know he was a staff sergeant. And Yeager, famous name, Chuck Yeager, the test pilot, one of the most famous test pilots in American history. Maybe he's related, maybe he's not. We did do a search on Harold and could not come up with anything. If we look through his photo album, first of all, we see he was a pretty handsome dude. There's his military picture. And that came with this album. The album is absolutely falling apart. We are going to offer this for sale unless we can find a family member. But he was in Trier, Germany, which I visited. If you're from Germany or you've been there, Trier, every town had medieval ruins, but Trier was unusual because they had medieval ruins built on top of Roman ruins, which was very cool. I enjoyed my visit there in Trier. So he was stationed there. You can see some shot up planes. Again, he was in the Air Corps. I imagine he was part of the maintenance team. There's some pictures of him. I see a glider there. And there's a picture of his buds. He's got some shot up planes, P-38s. He's got some observation planes up that look like they crashed. So he was involved, obviously, in the Air Corps, took lots of pictures. We've got a picture of him and his sweetheart. He's holding her like it's his girlfriend. So I don't think that's his sister. And then another one that could be his mother. I don't know. I hope I didn't insult anybody. And then we see that he came back to the United States because I see, when we go to color pictures, he's back home. We see some of other service members, including somebody from the Navy. There's more pictures. We see some longhorn steers. So I'm thinking we're down in Texas now. He's either back on base or he lives in Texas. And what clinches it on terms of Texas is I recognize the Alamo. So he visited the Alamo at some point. Now, the shame of this is this was offered at an auction, and Legacy Collectibles bought it because I love putting these things together. I also love finding the family, see if somebody wants these things back. It's great to keep it all together, but a lot of times the family doesn't want the guns, but they at least would want the photo album. I believe there's a lot of historical value in all of this. So we're really happy to have this assembly of the photo album and the capture papers along with the gun that he brought back from the war in October of '45. Now, back to the gun. I know a lot of you are gun lovers and history lovers, so we get a little bit of both on most of our videos. Let's go back to the HSC. The precursor of the HSC, of course, was the model 1934 Mauser. And they made those all the way up to 1940. Some of them were issued to the military. You can see some of them. This one we've sold at Legacy. It has the 655 proof, which is a military proof that they used in 1940. So they did issue them to the military, but the Walther PP and PPK were kicking their butts in terms of sales. So Mauser had to come up with a new design, and that was the HSC. Now, the HSC, the prototypes go all the way back to 1936, but they didn't start production until about late 1940. Much of this information, by the way, is from this book on the Mauser HSC. And we do offer this for sale. At the end of the video, I'll offer it to you if you might be interested. But it goes into a lot of detail on the production and the production's numbers of the HSC. Let me go through the variations really quickly. Again, not an exhaustive study. If you want more information, I'd recommend the book. But let me just do a quick overview of the different variations. So let's start with the police variations. They made two variations of police, the Eagle L and the Eagle F. The Eagle F is a little more rare, and the L and the F, we think they were initials of the inspector. And so they just like the American Army, I know on the 1911 Colt they'll have GHD, and that was the name of the inspector, the initials of the inspector. They used a police Eagle with the L. This one is a high polished blue, beautiful one. And it is police marked. So Eagle L and Eagle F are the two variations. After that, let's take a look at the military ones. By the way, they did make a commercial model which didn't have any marking right here. All of the markings are on the trigger guard. And you'll see on the right-hand side, they all have the Eagle N firing proof on the end of the slide and on the trigger guard. But the commercial ones will be blank on the left-hand side. By the way, the first ones that come out were a low grip screw. Let's take a quick look. They only made a few of these low grip screws. They were either commercial or Navy, but we have sold them in the past. Right now I don't have one, but you can see on our website, they started the HSC at 700,001. And so the earliest ones you will see the 700,000. This one is 705. So this is extremely early. They have a little lanyard loop on the back strap. So this is a military one. 655 was first. Then they had Eagle 135. Notice the finish it's not quite as high polish. And they did away with the lanyard in the back. They evidently weren't using the lanyard. So they did away with the lanyard in the back. You know, if it's unnecessary, why put it on there? Makes it quicker and cheaper for the military. So they went from the Eagle 135 to the Waffen Eagle. You can see the difference, the Waffen Eagle 135. And again, this is even duller. And this one, they added the black Bakelite grips. We're going to call this a Black Widow HSC. We just made that term up. If you haven't watched our video on the Black Widow Luger, you might want to watch that, but I like to call this a Black Widow HSC. Very rare to find it with the black grip. I think it looks really cool. So we're going to call this a Black Widow. And you can see this one is Waffen 135. The switch over from Eagle 655 went to 1941, and then in 1942, they went to the 135. Same is true of the Mauser Lugers. And one more that I want to show you, coolest one in my collection. This is a military. We'll call this a gray ghost. Look at this thing. I just love it. It is a gray phosphated finish. Again, if you know P38s, they were using phosphated finish on the P38s. They used the black Bakelite grips, which they used on the Lugers. Put it all together and you get this gorgeous gray ghost. I'm making these things up, so please don't go researching gray ghost and find out that it's just a made-up term. You can see the serial number is very, very, very late. Among the last ones, this one is 950,000. So this is one of the last ones made. After that, the French took over the factory and they produced them and they put their own French proofs on the gun, but they also made them with black Bakelite and a little bit different finish. But the French ones are not as desirable. The Nazi era ones, as in with most collectors, the Nazi era stuff is the most expensive. The commercial ones are the least expensive, even though they're fairly rare. They're less desirable than the military and police and certainly Navy. You can pick up a nice HSC for 500 bucks. A really nice one for 750. With the military ones, they're more like just around 1,000, a little bit under. Police ones, same thing, 1,000, maybe a little bit under. So not a real expensive gun compared to some of the other guns that you might collect. The most expensive ones, however, would be the Navy. There's several variations of Navy, but generally in the low grip screw they made Navy, and then also during the war they issued some to the Navy. These are more likely to go for 2,000, so almost double. So the Navy marked ones, there's different variations, but this is an example of a Navy HSC. Now, if you would like more information, let me recommend the book. As I said, my goal was just to give you a real quick overview of the HSC variations. But if you get this book, you can go through and get all this information and much, much more in tremendous detail. I'm just going to point out one chart on page 24. If you do a screenshot of this, you'll get a lot of information on how many were made in each year of the war. Total of 250,000 is the estimate. These are not exact, or they're probably less exact just because they're based on estimates. But this is really helpful information if you'd like more detail. And as a viewer of our video and hopefully a subscriber to our channel, I want to be able to offer you this book. We do sell them. We have to reorder them from time to time, so sometimes there's a backlog. But if you would like one, these are about $50, a little bit over with shipping. I'm going to offer it to the viewers at $45 shipped to you. So $45, you can buy the book, shipped to you. If you're outside of the United States, we'll just ship it at cost. So it would be $45 plus whatever it costs us to ship it directly to you. So feel free to comment and say you'd like information on the book, and then we'll follow up with an email and get in touch and be happy to send you one. Well, I hope you like the information, the bring back from Harold Yeager. If you are in Texas or a part of the Yeager family and you can help us track down some of his relatives, we'd be happy to work with them, at least on the photo album. But we're also happy to keep it all together. Thanks for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe because we have a lot more videos coming your way.